You pull up to the pump, you look at the total, and you just feel sick, right? Like your entire weekly budget is just gone. Poof. You're not imagining this, and you are definitely not alone. We are living through the immediate fallout of a massive global fracture. Let's get right into exactly why those changing numbers on your local gas station sign are suddenly dictating whether or not you can afford groceries this week. Just think about this for a second. The American commute just became a luxury most of us can no longer afford. I mean, read that again. Let it sink in. That is the visceral, everyday reality hitting millions of households literally as we speak. And honestly, you have every right to be outraged by it. It means skipping your kid's travel tournament or, putting off a visit to sick relatives just because the gas tank costs too much to fill. Driving to work, dropping the kids at school, these aren't luxuries. They're the absolute bare minimum requirements for participating in society. And seemingly overnight, that participation has been completely priced out of reach for a massive chunk of the country. 52%. That is the staggering spike in U.S. retail gasoline we witnessed in just a single week. A 52% jump? Yeah, that's not your standard run-of-the-mill inflation. It's not some seasonal fluctuation or a slight market correction. No, this is a structural collapse. It means the entire underlying system of how we move, how we live, and how we actually function just broke. We really need to start calling this what it actually is. You hear economists throwing around terms like reduced purchasing power or supply shocks, but let's reframe that in plain English. This is a tax on being alive. If you live in a car-dependent suburb, you don't have a choice. You can't just magically opt out of driving to your job or the pharmacy. When fuel jumps this drastically, it acts as a brutal, mandatory participation tax just to exist in the modern world. Because look, this pain didn't start at your local corner station. It actually started 7,000 miles away. Back on February 28, 2026, the U.S. and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury against Iran, which, as you know, included the assassination of their supreme leader. And the retaliation was instant, but it was incredibly asymmetrical. Iran didn't even bother declaring a formal legal blockade. They didn't have to. They just made the Strait of Hormuz, which is this tiny 21-mile-wide global choke point, completely untenable. So by early March, 97% of shipping traffic through that corridor had just completely collapsed. But here's the crazy part. The hidden mechanism behind that shipping collapse wasn't actually purely military. It's not like all the tankers were being sunk left and right. No, just the mere threat of drone and missile strikes sent war risk insurance premiums absolutely parabolic. We're talking an extra $250,000 just to insure a single voyage for a major crude carrier. So it literally became cheaper for these massive shipping fleets to just stay home than to actually buy the insurance required to move. The entire global supply chain got totally paralyzed by risk adjusters. So what happens when 20 million barrels of oil get trapped in the Persian Gulf every single day? The market goes into absolute pure panic. Just look at the fallout here. Brent crude shot up 75%. Dutch natural gas skyrocketed an insane 140%. That is literally the sound of the world's energy inventory draining overnight. Nearly 1 billion barrels of cumulative production just vanished from the global balance sheet like it was never there. And understanding this terrifying domino effect is absolutely crucial because the pain does not stop at the gas pump. It's a chain reaction. Step 1. Diesel spikes even faster and higher than regular gas, mainly because refineries need specific Gulf crude to actually make it. Step 2. Freight rates surge. Why? Because every tractor, train, and cargo truck running our logistics network relies heavily on diesel. And that leads us to Step 3, a global grocery emergency. Over in Australia, farmers are already warning of a 20% hike in grocery prices. In the Gulf states, food imports collapsed so fast that retailers literally had to airlift staples in. That transmission vector guarantees the crisis is hitting your dinner table next. And mainstream coverage is honestly completely missing the severity of what happens next. They just assume the second a peace treaty is signed, prices aren't going to magically drop back to normal. But the structural scars here run deep. Missile strikes hit Qatar's massive Ras Laffan LNG complex, wiping out 17% of their production capacity in a blink. And the repairs? Estimated at 3 to 5 years. Qatar actually had to declare force majeure, meaning they legally had to throw their hands up and cancel these massive international contracts. So this isn't a temporary dip. We're looking at medium-term structural deficits that are going to outlast any diplomatic handshake. Let's just pause right here for a second. Take a breath. How did we build a civilization with absolutely zero room for reality? Think about it. Every single thing you touch today, your phone, your breakfast, the clothes you're wearing, it all only exists because of a deeply fragile, hyper-efficient global supply chain. We optimized our entire world for the absolute lowest cost, creating this giant house of cards that relied almost entirely on a 21-mile strip of water controlled by nations at war. And the second reality hit, it all just fell apart. And when you bring that massive reality check back home, what we're seeing is the brutal truth of a K-shaped economy. For households making over $125,000 a year, a 52% spike in gas is, well, it's incredibly annoying, but they can absorb the cost, pay the premium, and just keep driving. But for folks making under $40,000, it's a complete catastrophe. They are forced to cut travel by 7%, carpool, skip trips, and literally choose between food and fuel. It's actively creating a permanent class divide where the wealthy just pay the fee, while everyone else is effectively left stranded. Plus, the damage isn't just financial. It is deeply, deeply psychological. Researchers analyzing 17 years of household data actually found that the constant stress of playing what they call fuel roulette causes a measurable loss in subjective well-being. For families on fixed incomes, a sharp hike at the pump literally felt the equivalent of losing nearly $3,500 of monthly income. Just imagine that. The constant grinding anxiety over whether you can afford to drive to the doctor or visit a friend is quite literally eroding our collective mental health. And this all creates an economic trap that pretty much kills any hope of immediate relief. You know that macroeconomic soft landing we kept being promised? Yeah, it's officially dead. Central banks everywhere were getting ready to cut interest rates. They wanted to provide some relief. But now they're trapped. They are forced to keep interest rates punishingly high just to fight off the massive economy-wide inflation that this exact energy crisis just injected into the system. So you're paying more for gas, you're paying more for food, and nope, your credit card rates are not coming down anytime soon either. So where do we go from here? Well, welcome to the new normal. The era of cheap, globally sourced gas is permanently over. What you're going to see instead is accelerated friendshoring. Nations and massive corporations are finally accepting that they have to pay higher logistics security premiums to get their fuel from allies, rather than relying on active war zones. And for the middle class, honestly, electrification is no longer just this nice environmental choice. It's rapidly becoming the only viable insurance policy you have against this kind of absolute market chaos. Which really leaves us with the most critical and, frankly, uncomfortable debate of all. When we step back and look at the shattered supply chains, the soaring grocery bills, and the everyday families literally stranded in their own neighborhoods, is the geopolitical goal of Operation Epic Fury actually worth the effective bankruptcy of the American middle class?
An investment in knowledge pays the best interest, so why not invest in this channel? Click like and subscribe for more.